Welcome to this video that's looking at GCSE English Paper 2. And the purpose of this video is to help you get a good understanding and a grasp of what Paper 2 looks like and the kind of questions that you've got on it. Now, we suggest that you make notes as you go along through the video. We'll keep the videos up for quite a bit of time. And you come back to these videos if you just want a little bit of revision, a little bit of reminder of what you've got to do. We will keep these videos up, so just before the exam you can check them out and you can watch it. Now, we're looking at the language paper. So we're looking at language paper 1 and language paper 2. So both papers, they're worth equal weight, so 50%. Now this video is going to be looking at paper 2 in particular, but you can see that it's worth 50% of your overall GCSE. So it's really important because when you think about the actual grades, you're looking for a grade 4 on average to get about 50% of the overall marks. So you can see that each of these papers is equally important. So you can't have one favourite paper over the other. And what we notice is that those students that get a grade 4, they do just as well on paper 1 as they do on paper 2. It's about that equal balance of marks across the two papers. Now remember to keep writing notes as we go through this. This will help you. Now the paper's overall title is Writer's Viewpoints and Perspective. So what the actual paper is going to do is test your ability to look at two pieces of writing and see how the writer's viewpoints, how they see things, are different. So you're going to have two texts, one with one person's view on a topic, and then another text with a completely different person's view on the topic itself. Now the texts that you're going to have are going to be non-fiction texts. So what I'd like you to do is just pause the video and just see which of these from this list would be termed as non-fiction. And we're going to go through the answers now. So a letter, a diary, a magazine article, and a newspaper report. All right, and the thing that categorizes non-fiction different from fiction is that it's to do with real life and it's about real things. It's not made up story. So paper 1 is fiction, so it will be stories. Paper 2 is non-fiction, so you could get a letter and a diary or a magazine article or a newspaper report. And you'll see that actually the whole paper, the way that the paper works, is it will ask you probably to write one of those as well at the end. Now, before we look at the paper in great detail and look at it question by question, we're going to have a look at actually the purpose of the overall paper itself. And we're going to have a bit of a practice with one of the things that we've got here. So let's say, for example, the paper itself is about looking about homework. And that's the topic. And what you'll notice with the exam paper is it will have a theme that links to both the text together. So it could be a theme to do with sports or healthy eating. It could be absolutely anything. And so what you'll get is you'll get this topic and two texts. So for example, I've given you an example here. So let's say text 1 is from a teenager. We're going to say text 2 is from some parents. So let's think now and just have a bit of a pause the video and just think, right, well, how will teenagers view homework differently to parents? All right, so just pause the video and just think, right, how will teenagers view, what's their perspective on homework? How do they look at homework? All right, and just jot down in your notes what teenagers would probably think and what would be their viewpoint that we'd have. And then once you've done that, think about the parents. What are the parents' viewpoint? How do they view this? Okay, let's have a look how their viewpoints are different. And this is where it's really important that you do that thinking. English is one of those tricky subjects where actually you can't just rush and put the first thing that comes to mind. The first thing that comes to mind is usually wrong. And so you've got to do some thinking and just go away and think about things. So if we have a look here, so how do teenagers view homework? Well, first thing is they've got current experience about it. So they know a lot about homework. So they're going to have clear ideas about homework. They've got a younger experience, so they don't have that much life experience, but they probably have more experience of homework than their parents. The other thing that they haven't got, though, is evidence of life, less experience of life. And they've got no experience of how homework prepares you for life. And so that's how a teenager may view homework. Okay, that's their perspective. If we look at a parent's perspective, well, their experience of homework is probably, depending on the parent, a decade ago. So they haven't got up-to-date home experience of what homework is like. So their experience is based on what it was like 10, 20 years ago. They're also older. They've got no experience of modern homework, but they have got more experience of life. And they might see the link between work and homework, and they might also have some regrets and maybe think that actually they should have worked harder on homework than they did. So they may be more harsher with teenagers, their own children now, because of this experience. And so we can see two different people's perspective on the topic, and that takes a bit of thought. So when you get the paper, think about the topic and think about the perspective and what is it about this person? How is their life different than the other person? Now we're going to get you to have a go on your own now with this example. So we're looking at computers, and imagine the exam paper has given you two extracts. One is a newspaper report from 1988 and the other is a blog from 2020. Now let's think about this. Computers, 1988. Do we think computers were in everybody's home, and do you think everybody had a computer? Well, no, they didn't. So I want you to think of how will man one, how will his perspective be very, very different from man two? And on your paper and your notes, just jot down what do you think man one's perspective would be? How would he view computers? What would he think about it? What would he feel about it? And then I want you to write another column and think about man two. So we could probably identify with man two because we use computers nowadays, don't we? So what do we think man two's attitude towards computers would be? What do you think he'd feel about them? And what do you think he'd think about them? So you can see I've got the pause symbol there. As soon as the pause symbol disappears, then I'll go and explain what you could have written down. So just pause the video now. Okay, so let's have a look at how these two people could view the topic of computers differently. So in 1988, if we think about the man, the computers were new, so he'd never had them before. So really, a man probably wouldn't be sure about what they can do. So it's not a part of his normal life, so he'd be quite impressed and think it's amazing and brilliant and maybe has loads of ideas of what they could be used for, but probably doesn't know about their full potential. Okay, so everything for them, for the man in 1988, is it's new and exciting and amazing. If we look at a man in 2020, well, he's probably used to computers, probably frustrated with computers because they're not fast enough for them. Probably not impressed with computers too much and probably accepts them, and they're a normal part of life. So they're kind of like, they've lost the excitement around them. So you can see that we've got two different perspectives. And so when we read the text, we should probably see that the man in 1988 is really amazed by the computer. And then if we look at the man in 2020, he's probably not impressed at all. He kind of expects better. And so we've got a difference in perspective in terms of the text itself. And that's really, really important, because this is something that you're going to have to address when it comes to the text and writing about the text itself and remembering the difference in perspectives. Now, these are some of the examples that we've had so far in the exam papers so far. So we've had two people's opinions on boats, two people's opinions on surfing, on children, fairs, sport, school, bicycle, animals. So that's what the exam paper will do. It will choose a topic, like boats, and it will show you one person's perspective of boats and then another person's perspective. And what you've got to do is explain what the writer's perspective is and why have they got that perspective. So that's just to give you a brief overview of how this paper works and the concepts behind it. So when it says writer's viewpoints and perspective, we're looking to see how two different people view the one topic. Now, here are some key points for you to be very, very clear about this paper. Both texts will be from different time periods. So you'll probably have one modern and probably one 50, 100 years ago. So they'll be there. They will be different perspectives. So you might have, you could have a male perspective or a female perspective. You could have a parent's perspective and a child's perspective. But there will be something about these two texts and the writers that's a difference, and that's what you've got to look out for. It's not about it being Victorian. So if one of the texts is from Victorian times, it's not about going, well, they didn't have cars in those days, so this is about things being old then and things like that. It's not about that. It's really about the people and why the people see things differently. It's not about the fact that, times have changed. It's about the people. So go back to the computer, the man in 1988. Okay, yes, computers weren't around, but it's about the fact that the man hadn't used a computer, and so we'd be quite impressed with it. That's the interesting personal thing. It's not about the fact that, computers are everywhere and computers are not. It's about the way that people interact with the topic. You need to think about why they think and feel the way they do. And you will need to think and dig deep to find ideas. That's what is really, really important. A lot of people, when it comes to English, they just think of the first thing. And the first thing is never the right thing. And you really do need to think. And what I'm going to do is, with these videos, is show you ways in which you can help yourself build in that thinking and give yourself time to do that thinking. So the two texts here. So I've taken one which is to do with nursing. Okay, and you can see that you've got two texts there. You've got source A, which is Florence Nightingale. Okay, and it's talking about the Crimean War. And then on source B, you've got a modern extract, which is to do with the nursing profession, and the majority of NHS nurses feel underpaid. So you've got some reporting there. So you've got two different perspectives on nursing, one from a nurse in the Crimean War and one looking from the nursing profession, talking about the situation for nurses today. And so what we're going to say is that with this paper, you need to spend 15 minutes reading those texts. Now I'm going to do another video for you to kind of guide you and show you how to do that kind of reading. But that 15 minutes is really, really important, because you cannot skim read these texts. You need to know these texts really, really well before you start actually writing. Okay, you cannot just skim read and then think, oh, I'll just search for the answer. You need to understand what it's really, really like. And you'll only get that understanding of their viewpoint and perspective by reading the text closely and clearly. So now I'm going to talk you through the questions on the paper. The great thing about English is that the questions are the same. The only thing that's going to differ is going to be the texts that you're writing about. So we know that the exam that you're going to do in the summer will follow this structure. So the questions will not change, but the texts will change. And that's the key where it's important that you read the text. So we say to students that they should do question 5 first. Now, question 5 is the writing task. We're not going to spend at the moment time looking at question 5, but we say that you do the writing task first because that's when you're not going to be making mistakes and you're not going to be rushing. If you leave your writing till the end of the exam, then what happens is you tend to forget about how to use punctuation, spelling, and your handwriting, not being funny, goes to pot after a couple of hours. And so we know that, you know, at the end of the exam, your writing's not going to be great. And so we say do that first, and then that gives you a bit of space and time, because if you do the writing task first, then you can have a bit of a break with the reading the texts, because if you don't do that, then what happens is you're writing continuously. So the first question is a very, very straightforward one. So question 1 is a true and false question, and you have to find the 4 true statements, and they will be quite tricky, but they'll be about one source, and usually it's source A that it goes with. Question 2 is what we call a summary question. Now, the word summary is quite a tricky one, and I'm going to explain that in a further video. But really, what they don't want to do is you to put your words, reword the text in your own words. What actually means is they want you to make some inferences. So you need to be digging for some ideas about the differences in attitudes. Now, with this question, you're writing about source A and B, so both texts, and you're saying and you're summarizing, coming up with ideas about their different attitudes. Now, thinking about perspective, if you had that clear in your mind, you'd understand what the differences in attitudes were. So that's really important there. So question 2 is your summary question, and that's 8 marks. Question 3 is a bit of your standard question, which is a language question, and that's the analysis. So you've got to talk about words, techniques that are used by the writer, and this is the standard thing that we're used to doing in English. So this is your squeals paragraph that you're going to be writing about. So commenting on what words have been used and why the writers used those particular words. And that's 12 marks. Now, question 4, we call this the grade booster. And to think of it, in that terms is really important, because students often forget this question or leave it out, and as a result, they cost themselves quite a number of marks. And if you think about this, that this question is worth 16 marks, and if you think that the difference between grade boundaries can often be about as simple as 5 marks, with this one paper, you could possibly lose 2 grades or more if you don't answer this question. So it's really important that you do answer this question. Now, this question links all the way back to that idea about viewpoint and perspective. You're looking at both texts now, and you're thinking about comparing the different perspectives. How does source A see nursing differently to source B, and what techniques in the writing show us that? And very, very straightforward when you explain it like that, but it's often the one that students get quite find quite difficult to get through and to come up with those ideas. But we will have a look at another video about this. So each of these questions we will spend time and we will have a look at helping you and supporting you. So look out for the different questions videos related to this. Okay, here's a quick overview of the papers. So you can see how the questions go across. So question 1 is your true and false. Question 2 is your summary. Question 3 is the language analysis. and question 4 is the comparison. We've put down the skills. You can see also that the writer and the reader focus. So you can see question 1, you don't talk about the reader and writer. That's a true and false question. Question 2 is your summary. And surprisingly, you are not to talk about the reader or writer for that one. Question 3, you do have to talk about the reader and writer. And question 4, it is about the writer. And the text, you can see that source A is for question 1. And then question 2 is source A and B. Question 3 is source A or B. Usually it's B, but it can be A. And question 4 is both the text. So you can see that you can't do that. Quick scan one text and then answer a question, then read the other one. You really do need to read them both together because from the beginning, really you're looking at both papers. And you can see the marks. Now we've also included the national averages for 2018 and 2019. Now the reason why we include their average marks is because we know that to get a grade 4, you need to be average or above average. And so the closer you can be to the average, the better. And sometimes you think in English you've got to get full marks. This is showing you don't need to get full marks, but look, if you got about half marks for each of the questions, then you'd be on track to getting a grade 4. And I know that some students play exams tactically and they think, right, well, if I spend all my time on question 4, then I don't need to answer question 2. No, it's a load of rubbish if you approach the exam that way. The students who get a grade 4 are the students who achieve marks on every single question. If you miss out a question, you are throwing away a grade. And you've got to think of it from that angle. Right, another time to quickly pause the video and have a go at working with some questions. So I've got the pause symbol there, so just pause the video here and answer these questions based on what we've been talking about. As soon as the pause symbol disappears, I'll then go with the answers for you. Okay, so here are the answers to the questions then. So 1, how many marks is question 2 worth? It's 8 marks. Number 2, which question is worth the most marks on the reading section? That's question 4. Which 2 questions do not refer to the writer in your answer? That's question 1 and question 2. Which question is the language analysis question? That's question 3. Which question is the summary question? That's question 2. Number 6, what does the word summary actually mean on this paper? And we said that it means it's an inference. It means that you're not doing a summary as you like to think it is, but you're making an inference about the topic from the text. Number 7, which questions do you have to write about for both text A and B? Well, that's question 2 and question 4. Number 8, which questions do you only write about one text only? And that's question 1 and question 3. Remember, check out the YouTube channel because we're going to be adding more videos and more content as we go along. Remember, the videos will stay on for indefinitely because it'll be able to do a revision and to recap and just to make sure that you're clear and you understand. So if you've forgotten something, go back to the video and watch it and it'll explain to you what happens. There are more videos and there will be more videos linked to the different questions. And we're using this as a guide for you for the exam. So if you're not sure about how to approach question 2, then have a look at the question 2 video. And the same with the other questions. And if there is anything that you would like or you'd like a video making to help you explain something, message me on Show My Homework and I'll be able to do that for you.